Today, guys, basically what I was informed about was that Prydwen just released their new stuff, right? The new tier list. Everything's updated, okay? Listen, we just did the stuff with Poke literally yesterday, right? I'm on stream right now. We did this yesterday. Now we're here and I have some issues. So some of my opinions yesterday, apparently I had some of the best takes. I'm gonna keep it a bug. But the one that I got argued about the most on was Sushang and Topaz. I'm gonna talk about it. Maybe I can explain it a little better, but I'm not changing my opinions on those. It is what it is. It's going to be cool. That being said, we can kind of jump into exactly what I'm talking about real quick, which I guess before we do that, disclaimer, nothing that I say is actual like permanent. You have to abide by what I'm saying. These are just opinions. Everything is subjective to what's going on and how I approach it. The way that I approach looking at Honkai Star Rail, I was about to say Genshin Impact, but the way that I approach looking at Honkai Star Rail is completely different than the way that a lot of other people look at the game. And what I mean by that is without me even like mentioning the whole hyper carry thing, I mean genuinely that I look at this game as far as team-based structures go as a team, and like if this team performs a function the way that it's supposed to do, that's how I'm looking at it. Versus you do big damage and like that's cool. Like I can make anybody in the game, I can make Arlen do big damage, so it doesn't really matter to me. But that's a personal thing. I just want to make that clear because I know a lot of people seem to have this misconception or misinterpretation about how I look at the game and then why my opinions are the way that they are. Right here is basically going to be some of your criteria. Now, to my understanding, this changes a lot of the tier list. I could have sworn this was changed. This one sentence right here, this one statement. Characters equipped with level 80 light cones, 4-star and 5-star options, but only those available to free-to-play players. Now, something that all of us agree on when we were talking about this yesterday is basically just because a limited light cone is limited does not mean that it's not available to free-to-play players, because they do have the opportunity and option to pull for it. Most free-to-play players just choose not to do it because they would rather have a bunch of characters and then bitch and moan about not having enough power, or there's a 32% damage difference between this light cone and the last. But that doesn't mean that they don't have that ability to get that light cone, right? It's not that it's not available to them, it's just that they choose not to do so. So if this is under the pretense that this is just no limited light cones, right? Like no limited options for the light cone, that's a lot different, and we can take that into account. And that's probably how I'm going to be looking at the tier list, is that there's like, I'm not holding any signatures or anything like that. Otherwise it doesn't make any sense. That being said, they've changed some stuff, most of which seems to be the same. We'll go from the top board, right? Yesterday, we went from sustains, amplifier, specialist, and then damage dealer. So I'll try and keep things a little bit more concise so that you guys can see everything. This won't be an hour long. Maybe it'll be, I don't know. But Fushwen being up here, we talked about that yesterday. I like Fushwen. I think she's solid in the S+ category. But there was a lot of talk from myself, Smack, Moon, Rihu. We think Ho-Oh is also worthy of being an S+. But there was something that Poke mentioned that I genuinely do like. Genuinely, I like that he said it. If S+ tier is supposed to be creme de la creme, there should only be one. I'm willing to nudge right with 2, but ideally there should only be 1. Now, in order to fix this, because some of these characters don't exist on the same plane, the 2 in particular being Mei and then Acheron. These characters are in a league of their own. I know a lot of people have been putting Jingliu and Acheron, you know, neck and neck, like, oh man, Jingliu is better because 1 2 3 4 5. As many times as I've told you guys you're wrong, and I don't even have to be the one to back it up at this point. Any other creator that you think you listen to, or that you faithfully listen to, any creator that said Acheron was not going to be great, or she wasn't going to be free to play friendly, or that Jingliu was going to be the better option, they've proven themselves wrong. They've all came back and basically reneged. Renege is I don't know if that's a universal term, but renege basically means you take back what you said, right? They've all come back around full 180, right? That's what it is. Yeah, full 180. And they've changed their opinion. They no longer think Acheron is not free to play friendly. They don't think that that Acheron is a bad character, or that she's not worth investing, or that she's super hard to build into, anything like that. Yeah. So Acheron and Mei are in a league of their own based off what Poke was explaining. If we made an OP tier, same thing as Smack, right? They basically had OP or God tier. I agree with this. I think if we were to do anything and we made another tier, it would be the OP tier. And then Acheron goes in there for the damage dealer, and then Mei goes in there for the amplifier. And those are the only 2 characters as of this point in time that would sit in the OP tier. Now, if we don't do that, this entire list needs to change. And ideally, you also have to consider, right? Because apparently we're not taking in signature light cones. I don't know why that's a sentence they have in the criteria or in their change up there, the change log. I don't know why they have that there. Let's start with the big bang, right? We'll go through the damage dealers. Yeah. Oh wait, I lied. I started over on sustain. I lied to you guys. My bad, bro. We're already on sustain. Luocha, personally, I still think Luocha needs to get bumped down. I'm gonna keep it a buck. The way that the game is forming right now, I don't think Luocha's an S tier character anymore. If anything, and the reason I say that, right? Gallagher. Everything that Luocha does, Gallagher does, but he does more. And this might be the hot, I don't think I even said this yesterday. I think that might have been one of the hot takes that I kept to myself. Luocha is an amazing character. He's an amazing healer. Luocha's value steadily goes down. Every time they release a new sustain unit, especially if they heal in any capacity, Luocha's value goes down. Every character that comes out, especially during 2.0 and beyond, has been or will be multifaceted. They'll all have different things on their account, or rather in their kit, that allows them to do whatever it is and then some. Exactly, Sarah. Luocha is a very comfortable character, which I'm not taking that away from him, right? Like, if you have Luocha on your account, great unit. You really don't have a need to pull for a lot of other sustains, because the job of sustaining is to keep you alive. Luocha does that just fine. So based off that job, he's fine. I think he could stay in S tier based off the job alone. But then you look at, okay, who does his job and then does more things? Every other character that does sustaining in the game. Japard, honestly, I think Japard might be able to get bumped up, but that's temporary. I say that because when Aventurine comes out, he's boxing Fushwen for that top spot. When Aventurine comes out, he's going to be boxing Fushwen for that top spot. So maybe Japard being in B tier is okay, but we've seen a little bit of an influx of characters or enemies that encourage you to use shields. The only shields in the game right now would be Japard, and building him up to have a 2-turn or 2.5 turn ultimate, depending on if he gets hit or not,
Yeah.
on top of what he has going on for him, definitely could put him in the A tier category. And pairing him up with Acheron would definitely help out with that too. He loves that. So Japard could go up. I feel like Japard could definitely have a little moment just for a bit and go into A tier, but B tier is fine for now. It's not like super critical of that. Lynx, I don't think Lynx is better than Bailu. I do and I don't. I think Lynx is good. I think Lynx is not universally better than Bailu. Bailu as a universal sustain option, a healer, from early game when you're just starting to late game, I think Bailu is universally better at doing the sustain job. But I think Lynx fills a more niche role that allows her to shine brighter because of the cleanse, because of the burst heal, just like Bailu's, because of the targeted healing that she has with her skill, and because of the fact that when you pair Lynx up with her, what she wants to be paired up with, right? So you have your Sparkle, wow. You have your Clara and you have your Blades, yeah? And they want to get hit. You pair them up with Lynx, and then you're getting exactly what you want. Like, Lynx plus Clara is one of the most perfect combos in the game. I love it. So I understand it. And I'm like, okay, A tier Lynx, I'm not arguing for Lynx to get bumped down, right? That's not what I'm saying. But I do think Bailu, like, genuinely, Bailu could get bumped up, but I get why we have like the whole B and A tier, right? It's sustains are a little weird, because if we keep it, and we talked about this yesterday with Poke, right? If I keep looking at sustains as just a sustain, they only do their job, that's it. I get it. If we're looking at sustains as just sustaining, then I think that's okay. But if we're looking at sustains for like, okay, do you sustain and then what else do you do? Then that's where I'm like, okay, you have to have more. And then Bailu having a revive for free, that's something that I don't think people give enough credit to, especially in today's version of the game, where you have Sam can one tap you, especially if you don't have like Fushwen, right? Because not everybody has access to that. She hasn't had her rerun yet, so people just don't have Fushwen. But if you happen to have rolled on Bailu, a lot of people make it seem like, oh yeah, Bailu is just bad. If you have Bailu, you just don't need Bailu, bro. Pull Luocha instead. And now you have players looking at grabbing Luocha when they already have a Bailu, and they don't really need to do that. You could literally skip Luocha, grab Aventurine, or wait for Fushwen, keep Bailu, and then you're fine. Thank y'all for the follows. So it's little stuff like that. But overall, Acheron getting, or not Acheron, wow, Gallagher getting bumped up. He was in C tier yesterday, right, guys? Chat, he was, yo, what's up, Mello? He was in C tier yesterday, or was he in B tier? Maybe he was in B tier. I'm not entirely too sure, but hot take, which the other creators do agree with me on this, so I don't really feel like it's a hot take. Gallagher is better than Luocha, but I don't think Gallagher is S tier, which is why, that's why I said I would bring Luocha down. Gallagher's not S tier, but he's better than Luocha. So however you want to spin that, you could spin it, right? If you want to bring him up or bring Luocha down, it doesn't matter. He deserves A tier, but I think this character is better than Luocha. And in version 2.0 and beyond of Honkai Star Rail, where the game is going and currently what we have in the game, I think Gallagher is better than or equal to Luocha. I don't think Luocha's on the same level as Ho-Oh anymore, and we've already talked about, you know, those two being Fushwin and Ho-Oh practically being on the same level. So it's like that, but less than that, right? You have March 7th. March 7th's fine, right? She could stay where she is for now, and then you have Natasha. Natasha's okay too. So like the rest of this stuff is fine down here. It's okay. We can move on to the amplifiers. We've already talked about this. Mei is in a league of her own, but this is a little interesting, right? Yesterday when we talked about this, something that we mentioned that I think we agreed on collectively, but maybe it took us a little bit to get there. You said he's better, but didn't say why. Okay. The reason I think Gallagher is better is, I did say why. I said it a little earlier before I went on to explain everything. But the reason I think Gallagher is better than Luocha is because he provides the same comfortability and healing. They're both tied to, you know, like the passive type of healing, or attack my enemy or attack whatever, and then gain my heals back. But in Gallagher's case, his heals are just as big as Luocha's. You're typically not taking a lot of damage as it is. And so a lot of the times what happens with Luocha will heal you on his own, right? Like if you're playing on auto, he'll just auto heal. Or if you're playing it for yourself and he's going to passively heal you for thanks to his talent, it's fine. You don't really need it. Not to say that I wouldn't want it, but it's not that I'm in a dire situation. It happens at 50% or below, and I'm totally thankful for that. Gallagher, on the other hand, and ideally you're building a fast breaker. Yeah, so it's based off his break effect. You're building a fast breaker. You give him an outgoing healing body. You can do the same setup as Luocha, just have more break effect than you would the attack. And then you see Gallagher not only doing damage, we've been seeing Gallagher's lately. If you guys have been watching showcases with Gallagher, you've been seeing Gallagher's popping like 20k from his basic little attack where he, you know, breaks you or whatever with a basic attack. That's popping 20k on average. You've seen his ultimate. Rihu just did it like 2 days ago or something like that. His ultimate, or not his, yeah, I'm right. His Wolverine Claw did like 200,000 damage. So I'm like, what? No other healer in the game is doing that. Why do you have access to do that? You know, and I don't even know why he did it, but I saw it. I saw him do it. I watched it again, and then I counted the numbers. This is not including Mei, like Mei's break, right? You can see the different colored numbers. Mei did her own 100 something thousand, and then Gallagher did his own 200 something thousand. So I'm like, that's a ridiculous amount of damage just to be stacking up on top of a character just for them breaking you. And he's a sustained character, so he's good. He works flawlessly with Acheron. Gallagher plus Acheron is one of the best sustain combos in the game right now because of what he allows the team to do, as well as boosting her forward. So it's a little bit of that, but ultimately all these things that I'm mentioning about Gallagher, they're just like positives. Luocha only has healing. I mean, I guess, yeah, you have the whole like, oh, he can strip away the buffs. Yeah. We talk about this every single time we talk about a tier list. Stripping away the buff doesn't matter anymore because the game they stack on these stupid ass buffs now, where when you strip the buff away, they always take away the bullshit buff. It's not worth it. Now, obviously, if you can make it so that they strip away the buff and they only had one buff on them, then awesome. But stripping the enemy's buffs doesn't necessarily matter. Emergency healing is great. Gallagher has a form of emergency healing as well, which I think is still good. And not only does he heal the team by himself without using skill, mind you, he also heals the team by them doing the same thing they do with Luocha, right? When Luocha's field is active, they do their attacks, the team gets healed. In Gallagher's case, when you attack the enemy with the whatever the name of that state is, I was gonna call it Benedictus, but whatever the name of the state is that Gallagher puts on the enemy, the debuff, when you attack that enemy, your team gets healed. So it's the same exact way, right? You have the same exact thing that Luocha is doing beside it. Thank you. The beside it state. When you're doing the same thing that Luocha is doing, and you're doing it better and or equal to, what does Luocha bring to the table besides comfortability? And it's only comfortability for players. I say this all the time, and I know it sounds messed up, but I don't mean it the way that it sounds. Luocha brings comfortability to players who either A, are not comfortable themselves playing the game, or B, don't know how to pilot the team the way that they need to. Whereas Gallagher still has that comfortability, but takes a little bit to go on. Yo, Loki coming through with the big 20,000 raid, bro. I appreciate that. Thank you, man. How y'all doing? I would genuinely like to know, right? Like, because Moon, it seems that you're kind of like, I don't want to say defending Luocha, but you're bringing up some good questions and points. Why would Luocha be better than Gallagher?
Yeah.
Hey, yo, VX coming through too with the raid, bro. The 350, bro. What y'all doing over there, man? Thank you. It says why Gallagher is A, but they see him as a mini Luocha. I don't think he's a mini Luocha though. Right? Like if we go into, let's go to the changelog and we'll look at Gallagher. A in both MOC and Pure Fiction, agreed. In the hands of the community, Gallagher has proven to exceed our initial expectations as a healer, especially at higher Eidolons being granted the honorary title of Mini Luocha, which when played properly is absolutely accurate. Gallagher has his flaws and vulnerabilities, but when placed in the right teams with the right configuration, he is overcoming them. Wait, what? When placed in the right teams with the right configuration, he overcomes them. He is overcoming them in a much simpler task than expected. That sentence is fucking me up right now. I'm real positive that's worded wrong, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's just me. A well-built team and played E6 Gallagher can output sustaining capabilities equal to E6 Lynx and has his own synergies and unique capabilities in his debuffs and breaks as such. Excuse me, we're raising him to the same tier as her. I think he's better than Lynx. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Universally, I think he's better than Lynx. Yeah, that's what, see, Destiny, that's what I'm saying. I think putting Gallagher in A tier is deserved. Awesome. What's up, Forbidden? It's awesome, right? That's a great position for him to be in. But I also think he is not a mini Luocha. They're like here, right? Personally, I think he's better, but whatever. Bare minimum, they're on the same level. Gallagher and Luocha on the same level. We were just comparing Lynx to Luocha 2 tier lists ago, right? And unanimously, or not unanimous, most of us agreed Lynx, Luocha. I'm using Lynx a little bit more than Luocha depending on the team, right? Or she's preferred in different teams, but they're right here. Gallagher is the same way. I think Luocha might just be an A tier healer. In comparison to every other sustain that we currently have in the game, I think it's okay to say Luocha might be an A tier sustainer, and that's fine, right? Again, something that we have to agree or accept, not me, but you guys within the community. Not being S tier doesn't mean that you're fucking trash. Like if I move you from S tier to A tier, that doesn't, if they moved Zila from S tier to A tier, I'm not all of a sudden gonna be like, oh my God, bro, Zila's the worst character in the game. How could they do this to her? Blah, 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 blah. What is the reason? It's fine, right? Like if the reason is validated as to why they're moving from S tier to A tier, and even Rihu and I said like two tier lists ago that we would understand if Zila moved from S tier to A tier, and we caught flack for that. Right? You can't say that Zila's the best character in the game, blah, 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 blah. Okay, don't move her then. But in this particular case, Luocha's not better than Ho-Oh, and he's equal to or equivalent of Gallagher. Does he go in the middle? Why is he up there with Ho-Oh if he's not on par with Ho-Oh, but he's on par with the other characters in A tier? I think that's where he goes. That's just me. But y'all can let me know, right? You guys can let me know. The value in a kit plus personal opinion. Yeah, no, exactly. It's more so a mixture. Yeah, I would say A plus, but we can't do the apparently I can't do A pluses. I can't make a new tier. That's something that they kind of don't yeah, they don't like the plus, but it's fine, right? I would put them in the same tier away from Lynx. Maybe I wouldn't put Lynx above them or below them though. I think Ho-Oh is worthy of S plus. I feel okay. So this is why it's weird. I'm calculating everything either in the idea that we have an OP tier, right? And then S plus and S tier and whatever else, and then go from there. Fushwen's not OP, but she is S plus. If we're keeping it to the only one character can be an S plus tier, like per category, you can't have Fushwen and Ho-Oh in the same tier. If we don't keep it that way, then you could have the two of them in the same tier. That wouldn't change my opinion on Luocha not belonging in S tier. but instead belonging wherever Gallagher and Lynx are, personally. We can move on from that, right? We can move on from the sustain. I don't know how we talked about sustains for like 20 minutes, but it is what it is. And we can go into the amplifier. I already talked about Mei, but I'll reiterate this. Mei goes in her own tier, the OP tier. I think Sparkle at this point is fine in S+. Now, I'm of the belief Sparkle and Bronya are basically two sides of the same coin. However, I do want to make it very clear. I see a lot more value in Sparkle than I do in Bronya right now. For the same reasons that I just talked about why I don't see a lot of value in Luocha and I see more value in Gallagher. They're the same reasons. Right now, and this is just for me personally, the way my Sparkle, every other character in the game, Sparkle works like the same way for Bronya, right? Minus the -1. The -1 is a little weird, but people are making it work. I personally don't. In the case of me, my Zila is not, I don't have an E0. So my opinion on Sparkle plus Zila, which is the primary use of what I use Sparkle for, is completely skewed. And the way that I see this character is no better than Bronya, because I have an E2 plus Zila, right? Like my Zila is E4 or something like that. I see it completely differently. It doesn't work the same, right? Because she's gonna boost her up only like a halfway or a third, something like that, whereas Bronya boosts her up all the way. So in a lot of the times, or a lot of the games, I would rather use Bronya to get the guaranteed 100%. But I've been finding ways to use it so that I don't have to use Bronya and I can keep the quantum boost and all the other kind of stuff. Regardless, it kind of goes into that, yeah? Now, in the case of S tier itself, right? Because Mei would go into OP tier and then Sparkle would stay in S+ tier. I don't think anyone else goes in S+ tier. Ting Yun is a close second. Like, Ting Yun is a close second because of just how fucking universally busted this character is. But Bronya and Ting Yun can stay in S tier, and we get into another situation just like Gallagher. Either Pela goes up or Silver goes down. Personally, I don't think Pela is worthy of S tier yet. I think she's awesome. I think she's great. She provides a lot of utility for a number of teams. In fact, almost every team you can fit a Pela on if you need that third slot to be filled up. Most of what I'm seeing right now with Pela comes down to, if you're not dedicating her to like an Acheron team, for instance, you use Pela as like kind of like a fill up. yeah. Most players are doing double harmony and not one harmony, one nihility. If you're running Acheron team though, you're doing double nihility, or technically triple nihility. But most of the players, when they're playing the game or when they're averaging out their teams, they're not using, for instance, Bronya plus Pela. They're using Bronya and Ting Yun, and then Pela goes off to the other team as her own little nihility debuffer. So it'd be different if the argument was Pela versus Ting Yun. Like, okay, you could use Pela on every team and you could also use Ting Yun on every team. Who are you using? And it was a split down the middle, 50% Pela, 50% Ting Yun. Then I could see Pela jumping into S tier because they provide the same form of usefulness in that regard, but I don't see it that way. Now, I don't think Silver's hard, because Silver's value as an S tier character, or just in general as a character, Silver's value is really big. To players, I'm gonna say the majority of players, Silver's value to the majority of players is really big. Silver's value to players who have, you know, like myself, experienced or veteran players, you've been playing this game for going onto a year now, right? We're in the anniversary. Silver's value to players that are a little bit more experienced, we have veteran accounts. It's not that we don't need her, we just have like built out account. Like, you know, maybe it is that we don't need her. Obviously everybody wants her now because of Acheron, right? But when it comes to Silver, it feels like I don't need a Silver on my team. I could replace Silver with something else. And so for me, for my account, I could see Silver being an A tier. But then I also have a free-to-play account. And my free-to-play account, on that account in particular, the only thing more valuable than Silver on that account is Acheron. I have Jingliu, I have Topaz, I have Ting Yun. I don't have any of the other limited, like, I don't have Mei or Sparkle. I want to venture in, so I didn't get Sparkle. I don't have Luocha or Ho-Oh or Swan on the free-to-play, but I do have Bailu, and I think I have Japart as well. I could be wrong. I have Welt, I have Clara. Ratio is free, obviously. I have the opportunity to get Jingliu if I choose to do so, and then I don't have the DOT team. But because of that, Silver is invaluable on that account, because in the event I need something to be weak to anything, Silver provides that. Yeah, if I had my way and there was a plus system, Silver would go into A+. Silver and Pela would go into A+. Asta would go up to A tier. And that's how I would do that personally. Yukong, and Sarah sent it to me. We'll watch it later today. After hearing what Poke said, if she works the way that Poke is explaining to me, I could see the argument that Yukong goes in a B tier. I could see that argument. But without that argument, like if I can't see it, then Yukong would just stay in C tier for me. I think she's too complicated or too intricate of a character for the majority of players to be using, on top of having to build her and the rest of the team. Like it's not one of those situations where like, okay, build Jingliu in, right? And he just has a high investment, and then you stack everybody else on the team with him. It's one of those situations where like Yukong, you need a dead, like she's not one of those like, oh, you just throw whatever on the support. No, you need E6 and you need a dedicated build for Yukong per whatever the fuck you're doing, right? And no, Yukong's not meant for mono imaginary. That's the craziest part. She's great in mono imaginary, but she's not just meant for that. She requires dedicated speed tuning, dedicated gearing. You need to know what you're doing and how you're doing it. The requirement, the ease of use of Yukong might be the hardest character in the game to play. Out of everyone in the game, Yukong is definitely top 3 hardest characters in the game to play. To pilot Yukong, she's top 3 most hardest pilots in the game. That alone is why I would keep her in C tier, because the value is not worth it, right? Like, but when you do it, it really depends on who you're doing it with. I've seen Clara, Topaz, and Yukong, right? And that team, and like when you line the shot up for that, oh my god, bro, Clara's nasty. When you play Yukong Clara and you line that up so that Yukong does her little growing bowstrings, everyone gets plus crit, you get plus 82% attack or whatever the hell it is, and then you just have Spherog, repulsor blast, stand back, Clara, repulsor blast. That is easily the nastiest combo, one of the nastiest combos in the game. Free. I love it. It's such a nice thing to see. It's a great reward. Getting to that point, good luck, Chuck. But I think Harmony, the amplifier, we should be done with that, right? Any objections to what I was saying about amplifier? That might be a little bit of a good thing to go through, right? Clara Yukong, in your opinion, isn't hard to do. It's not that the combo is hard. I'm solely talking about Yukong. She's not a character that you can just throw on a team. Are we sticking with only 1 unit in S+ per category? Well, even if we didn't for the amplifier, which I do still think we're sticking with 1+, there's no other character that's up here. Silver's not on par with Sparkle. Ting Yun's not on par with Sparkle. Bronya's not on par with Sparkle. She would still just be the only character in S+ tier, because Mei would go up to OP tier. There could be an argument for Ting Yun, but I don't think Ting Yun might be more used than Sparkle, but I don't think Ting Yun's value is higher than Sparkle's in today's current game. Ting Yun is better than Sparkle. Ultra mad. I don't think so. Y'all, thank you for the follows. I appreciate that. I still think Bronya and Sparkle's in the same tier, but that's my opinion. Yeah, I did think that at one point, but I think my opinion about Bronya Sparkle is a little skewed because of my Zila. When I use Sparkle with, like for instance, Blade, better. When I use her, if I were going to use her with Clara, better. If I were to use her with Topaz, better. If I used her with Swan, whatever, but better. You know what I mean? Hey, yo, Crypto, thank you for the subby sub, bro. I appreciate that. Look at you coming through with the ting and bounce that ass. If I used her with Kafka, I wouldn't. But if I did, better. QQ, skill points, so that I can keep failing, better. Jingliu, better, right? And it's only because Sparkle's whole thing is I'm going to do what Bronya does, but my buff is going to last until your next turn. Yeah? Whereas Bronya, the moment you finish this turn, the buff is gone. So in a situation we just saw yesterday when I was playing on Peach's account and we were trying to fix up Peach's account, and we saw it where I used Bronya and then I skilled with Jingliu, and then when I did ults, because I didn't do it in time, I didn't have that buff no more. So I'm like, I see now, right? Like I've been playing without realizing Sparkle kind of spoiled. Sparkle been spoiling me lately. And she Bronya lets you use attack boots as well. The difference is that, and me personally, I like -1 Bronya a little better than Sparkle, because it lets me go in what I experienced more times. But in Sparkle's case, across the board, having attack boots on all those characters that I just mentioned, Jingliu, Topaz, if you have E0 Zila, I mean, she doesn't need speed boots anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you know, Zila, you have Acheron, you've got Jingliu, you've got Blade, you've got Clara. A lot of these characters should already be running attack boots, but Sparkle makes it so much more comfortable because now these low speed characters really don't need speed. They don't need anything in their kit, right? It's all dependent on Sparkle. So there's a lot more that goes into that, but I just don't think they're on that same list anymore. Now, Rihu made a crazy ass. Was that Rihu yesterday that made that statement, or was that Moon? Did you make it or did Rihu make it? Which one of y'all said Sparkle was a quarter and Bronya was a nickel? I wanted to smack somebody upside the head, bro. Like, how dare you put Bronya on the queen of Belobog? You're gonna put her on the
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Forbidden coming through with the subby sub, bro. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're gonna put her on the equivalent of a fucking nickel? That was Rihu? All right, bet. Yeah, bro, Rihu was about to get smacked up, man. I think we're done with Amplifier. Yeah, we're done with Amplifier. We went through that one real fast, but I wanted to address the Bronya and Sparkle thing. Now we go on to Specialist, yeah? Specialist, now this is where Smack and I disagree.
Yeah.
And I don't think Kafka needs Swan to be in S+ territory. I also don't think Swan she doesn't need to be in the specialist category either. Like, is there a reason we have her in the specialist category? I know she has a synergist tag, right? They all have synergist tag. So is that just like, no, okay, no, I was gonna say that can't be by default because Misha has a synergist tag and he's in the DPS category. I don't think Swan needs to be in the specialist category. I think Swan excels in the amplifier category, but I also think the damage output she does is worthy of S tier. Some of these S tier characters, Swan's damage output with Arcana is fucking insane. Her damage output is ridiculous. Can we just put Black Swan on S+? I don't think Black Swan is S+. Not in the specialist category. That's my thing, right? I personally don't think she's special S+ in any category, but I don't think she belongs in the specialist category. I think arguments can be made for her to go in S+, but I don't think she's an S+ character. And then what were you guys asking? You were asking what's a specialist? Specialist, characters that excel under certain specific circumstances, carrying a unique role that often requires a different and divergent playstyle. This one sentence basically stands for DOT, or follow-up attacking type characters. But they use it as an example. Breakers can deal monstrous burst damage or crippling crowd control, and synergists introduce entirely new team archetypes. This second part though, synergists introduce entirely new team archetypes. Based off that, Swan doesn't need to be in the specialist category. She doesn't introduce a new archetype, it already exists. She amplifies the fuck out of it. Like, Swan abuses the shit out of DOT. Kafka abuses DOT and enables DOT and then introduces DOT, right? Swan abuses it. Like, so that's why I'm like, I don't think she should be here. If we could pick one or the other, put her in the DOT, the damage dealer role, or put her in the amplifier role, right? And then give her a little synergistic thingy and go from there. But she doesn't need to be over here. And this is why we were having that argument yesterday about Topaz, where you guys were saying you don't think Topaz and Swan are on the same caliber. They're not, right? But in this particular category, I don't think Topaz is there's no one else, right? And that's what I was arguing yesterday about Topaz. If we don't need to use Topaz ratio, that's totally fine, right? A lot of people don't need to use Topaz ratio. And the argument presented was that if he could be replaced and there was no substantial loss or gain, then there wasn't really a need for this character, right? A need for Topaz. But that doesn't remove what this character's kit is. Topaz still has her kit to enable or activate follow-up attacking teams. Ratio without Topaz is not a follow-up attack team. It's just a hyper carry ratio. Jingliu without Topaz, granted, I didn't even like Jingliu and Topaz like that. A lot of other people did, and now they don't, apparently. So I really take what Jingliu mains say with the biggest grain of salt, like a whole fucking thing of salt. I take what they say with a big ass thing of salt, because every single time a character or something comes out, this is the best thing in the world since sliced bread for Jingliu. A month or patch later, they don't care. They don't even think about it. Jingliu mains aren't even thinking about Topaz anymore, based off what I've been told by fellow Jingliu mains, even though he would benefit from some Topaz action. You know what I mean? Now, that in mind, Jingliu No Topaz, you still do Jingliu shit. You know what I'm saying? Like Jingliu's still gonna do it. That's valid. Topaz plus Jingliu, they don't even benefit each other like that because Lightning Lord is so slow. Numby doesn't really get to take advantage of that, right? Like, I guess maybe at the very end of the cycle, if you were to manage it, then you could do that, but sure. Like, I get more benefit running Kafka Topaz for a follow-up centric team than I would Topaz and Jingliu, simply because Kafka's follow-up attack is controlled, and it's as fast as she goes. That's how often you get that. A follow-up attacking team, which is what Topaz and Numby they create, they are the Kafka of follow-up attacking teams. They are S tier. That is a special. She is a specialist category class. Swan is not. Swan shouldn't be here, and that maybe right. Like if Rihu were here, maybe I explained it a little better. I don't know. Maybe this is why this argument was had yesterday about Swan, and that you guys were saying like, oh yeah, Topaz is A tier, and I'm like, that fuck no, because she's better than Luocha, better than Sampo, she's definitely better than Sway, she's better than Welt, better than Gunaifen, better than Fire MC, and then better than Sushang. So by default, she can't be in the same tier as any of these guys. None of these other characters. Welt can be in the specialist category. Welt can be in the specialist category. Luocha and Gunaifen, just Luocha, can be in the specialist category. Sampo, argument could be made for Sampo to go in specialist category simply because he is dedicated to DOT. You can use him in other things, but he's dedicated to DOT. Sampo can be in the specialist category. Shui Yi is a mixed bag. She's definitely a damage dealer, but how she does the damage falls under the specialist category. Sushang, specialist. Fire MC, yeah, no. Fire MC is still a sustain. They're just ass at it. Like we might have to just move Fire MC back over to C tier sustain. Maybe B tier now that Acheron is here, right? Like Acheron is here, Fire MC can go into B tier. That could work. Yeah, no, I don't think Fire MC is a breaker in this particular tier is great. I don't think. And even then, you still see it as a C tier, right? I think Fire MC is much better off in B tier as a sustain, because as a sustain, Fire MC's potential is in short, quick bursts, right? Fire MC goes over there. But as a specialist, I don't think they do any. There's nothing that they introduce, right? Fire MC doesn't introduce any type of new team archetype or new mechanic that the team can abuse. Obviously, they do that with Acheron though, but they really just help Acheron get what she wants. Terry, you said Swan is the damage dealer / Ron May of DOT. Yes. Kafka is the Bronya / Sparkle of DOT. Yes and no. That's such a hard way to look at it. Swan is the damage dealer and May of DOT. I could agree with that. But then Kafka is the Bronya / Sparkle of that one. I'm 50-50 on. Kafka's damage ain't nothing to laugh at either. You know, it feels wrong, but it's right. Kafka advances or action advance forwards to the DOT damage. Yeah, but she still does her own. Like maybe it's because Bronya and Sparkle don't do damage. Maybe that's why I'm like having a hard time processing it. She just advanced forward dot. Okay, we got it. Maybe that's what it is. But by that explanation, we can either move Swan to damage dealer or to amplifier, because Swan isn't the specialist here. It's Kafka. That's how I feel about that. But yeah, Luocha's an A tier character.
Yeah.
Sampo's okay. I was convinced about Sampo. Poke convinced me about Sampo yesterday that Sampo can stay in the A tier. I think Sway can go down to B tier for similar, not exact, but similar reasons that I explained about Yukong. Sway can go down to B tier. I personally think Sushang needs to go up to B tier minimum. Gunaifen needs to go up to A tier. Welt's a little harder to judge because I don't think Welt is B tier worthy, but I don't think Welt is so good universally, right, that he needs to go higher than that, because he is in the specialist class for a reason, and he feels much better in dedicated niche teams. Like, it's one thing for Sampo, yeah? Sampo is dedicated to DOT. It makes a lot of sense. You could say he excels at that. What can we say Welt excels at that no one else in the game, maybe one other, right? Because in Sampo's case, he has Swan. What can we say that Welt excels at that only one other character excels at better than him? That might be where the trouble lies when it comes to Welt, right? E0 Welt is B tier. E2/E6 though, he's much higher. I could see that. I don't have an E6 Welt, so I'm not entirely too sure. Imaginary break, delaying enemies. Yeah, he does excel at delaying enemies, but that falls under the niche role. Yeah, that falls under like the super niche thing to do. So you're building a team dedicated to delaying enemies, because this is E0 weld. So if it's E0 weld and you're going for like a sustain weld, wouldn't I just put him in the sustain category? And if I put him in the sustain category, who is he better at sustaining than the other sustainers already in the game? If I put him in the DPS category, that's a little different, right? Now I have to figure out if he's S tier worthy, which I don't think he is, but you know, now I got to figure out between B tier and A tier. But just hanging out in the specialist category just feels a little eh. And now I have to figure out, okay, are you A tier worthy or are you B tier worthy? He's better at March than sustaining, so he can't go into C tier. So maybe B tier is where he belongs, right? Maybe B tier, because of how niche Welt is. Heck no. What are we talking about, Rihu? You think he's higher than that? Why delay the enemies when you can just kill them? Yeah, if you Powerpuff Girl the shit out of him, sure he kills. But he's not doing it on his own. I like the comfortability and the versatility of how you can build him. I like the fact that he can be a sustain or a sub DPS with slow and the infliction of vulnerability, which amplifies my main DPS even further. I do like that. March and Natasha move down, Welt and C. You think Welt's a C tier character? Oh, okay, we're talking about like purely sustaining. We're talking about purely sustaining. That's valid. I see what you're talking about. He's the only person with a technique that slows the enemies. Welt is for pro newbies. Shouldn't even try Welt sustain. Welt is like a jack of all trades. He can deal damage and apply debuffs. He arguably sustains, but he is not the best. You know what, GDK? Karma, I like that. Welt is a jack of all trades, which that's why he's in the specialist category. We just solved a puzzle. Or was it a riddle? We just solved a riddle. No, it's a puzzle, right? That's what Blue's Clues said. We just solved a puzzle. No, it's a riddle. Guys, what does Steve say? What does Steve say from Blue's Clues? We just solved the riddle. Or is it it's a riddle, right? Okay, that's what I thought. We just solved a riddle. Bro, oh, I'm mixing the songs. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. I wonder who it's from. I'm mixing the songs. That's what it is, man. My bad. That's what it is. Thank y'all for that one, man. Hell yeah. Welt is good in single target battles, but dog shit when there's a trotter, just like Jingliu. Bro, that trotter really fucks people up. Now, on to the most controversial hot takes in the world. Acheron goes in OP tier. There's no other character better than her in the game. I'm stating that right now. I'm not the only one who stated it, but I know I'm going to be the only one that catches flack for it. Daniel, listen, I am going to quote Mr. Poke, the Daniel main. I'm going to quote Mr. Poke. Daniel gets moved down to A tier. E0 Daniel gets moved down to A tier. And with the inclusion, we're still including the fact based off of what, for whatever Sephiroth's sake and reason, they have this criteria in here. We're under the assumption you cannot use your signature light cone, right? That's the assumption that we're under. Based off what Mr. Poke said, E0 Daniel is an A tier character. After playing with E0 Daniel for 3 weeks, I was an E0 Daniel main. I have to agree. But I want to make it clear, I did not make this opinion or statement about Daniel. It was Mr. Poke. Got to throw him under the bus. That puts him in A tier. Jingliu is the only S plus character or DPS that we have in the game. You said Dill is S. I'm gonna tell you why Dill is an S based off of what Mr. Poke has said. Dr. Ratio does everything Daniel does at E0 and better for less cost and half the work. And he's free. He's free. So now if we look at it and we say, would you recommend Daniel or the free Dr. Ratio hanging out in your mill right now? Say pick up Dr. Ratio. Any new player they hate Ratio? Listen, Dragon, I'm gonna keep it as respectful as possible. New players that don't like Dr. Ratio are just bad, and that's okay. They don't have a properly built account, an invested account early game because they just started the game, and that's totally okay. Early game, all of your DPSs are dog shit. I'm gonna keep it a buck. No DPS early game is the best thing compared to anything else in the game. All of your characters are fucking ass in the beginning of the game. How do I know that? I have a new account. Ryu has a new account. Moon has a new account. We just got Soul into the game. He has a new account. My boy Kaizen has a new account. Hex just made a new account. Everyone that plays the game is doing no more than like 200 to 300 damage at fucking well deep in the Bellabog territory. Right? Or not Bellabog. Yeah, I'm right. Yeah, Bellabog or Lao Fu. I watched Ryu play and he's doing 300 something damage with any of his DPS characters. Like if he crits, oh yeah, maybe he'll get 1700. All of your DPS characters are ass. I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you, bro. You don't have the relics, the gear, nothing like that to make them not bad. So it is what it is. Ratio doesn't perform because the player, the new player, doesn't know how to play this fucking character. To them, They just think click skill, click button, do damage. You still need the debuffs. And that's where Topaz would come into play. But if you don't have Topaz, then obviously you want the team. And that just goes into building the team, which again, most new players don't know how to do. Why don't they know how to do it? Based off all of the comments from my previous video about Acheron team building, most new players just haven't been taught that. They don't understand it. The game doesn't teach it to you in a way that, you know, like, okay, you should be playing the game based off this to build for this. Nah, the game just tells you about paths, and that's what it is. You clearly didn't use Jingliu. Her 50% crit rate makes her completely shit on any other DPS in terms of, he completely shits on any other DPS in terms of investment to value. What the fuck does that have to do with what I'm talking about right now? Bro, what? Albie, what are we on? I'm talking about relics and stuff. I'm talking about the character. Your DPS characters early game are all ass. They're all at. Jingliu excels at what she does because she doesn't need as much investment as the other characters for your crit value. But that doesn't mean you don't need crit value. You still need some form of crit damage. So if in the event Jingliu goes into Bonkai, boom, she hits Bonkai, and now she's got not even 100% guaranteed, mind you, because you don't have any other, you don't have the pieces. You have, we'll keep it a buck, 55% crit rate. You got a coin flip on whether or not you're gonna hit something for a crit. Then you still need crit damage, which based off of not having relics, you may or may not have anywhere between 50 to 100% crit damage, depending on whatever like bullshit relics you've gotten from playing throughout the story mode. Yeah, you're not doing damage. You can't take your traces to 888 minimum. You definitely can't hit 10 10 10. You can't go beyond level 60 or 70, whatever they cap you off at. And the pieces that you do have, maximum are getting a +9. You don't have speed boots. You barely have attack boots. You should not be farming for relics that early into the game anyway. Everyone's characters early on are dog shit. What are we doing? I'm not saying Jingliu is bad. I'm specifically talking about early game because the comment from Dragon was that new players hate Ratio and that he's the worst thing since sliced bread and nobody wants him and they would prefer Daniel. The argument is what can Daniel do that makes him S+ worthy that Ratio can't do for free? I don't need to pull for him. He works good with his without his signature light cone, and I don't need to invest as much as I do in a team or the character to have Daniel. What are we doing? I'm gonna answer that, Jisoo. I'm gonna answer that. Give me just a moment. We're gonna clear through the Daniel and Ratio thing real quick. But ultimately, these are Mr. Poke's words, not mine. I want to make that clear once again. He hits all the enemies on the field. Why would that matter? If it costs you 3 skill points to do that, and you can only do it, realistically speaking, from a free-to-play perspective, because you don't have all the characters, like you can only do that once a cycle. Ratio can hit his skill every time he goes, he can hit his skills, which means I'm getting 2. I get 2 attacks out of my skill every time I go. Daniel, I get 1. So I'm not really hitting every enemy on the field. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. In the time it takes the casual or average player, an average Daniel main, to do and eradicate the board, Ratio would have just cleared 1, if not both of the elites. It's very similar to how Zila works, except Zila triggers Resurgence by killing something. Ratio triggers, here's my follow-up attack, because you just happen to have too much idiocy stacked on top of your head. You got too many debuffs, bro. Your brain is dented. Take another attack. Damn, you got 65% of a dented brain. I'm gonna roll the dice. Oh shit, I rolled a nat 20. Take another attack. Hey man, you got 100% dent. You are deformed. Take another attack. Like Ratio is that kind of character. There's no requirement on a Ratio. The only thing that requires Ratio to play is for you to put those debuffs. You gotta dent that motherfucker's head, right? Dent your enemy's head. That's it. That's the only requirement you have for Ratio. By no means am I still saying that Daniel's bad, by the way, guys. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that Daniel's bad. I'm just saying that there's nothing Daniel does in this current form of the game that Ratio also doesn't do, if not better. So by default, if you want Daniel to be an S tier, that argument could be made. But based off of the tier list criteria that we thought they changed, but they did not, Daniel would get bumped down to A tier, according to Mr. Poke. Now, let's talk about Jingliu. Jingliu, I mentioned this earlier because you asked me, it wasn't Albie that asked me that, right? Who just asked me that? Jisoo, you asked me if I would recommend Jingliu to a newer player. My answer is still no, but I'll explain why. Jingliu is the only S+ character in the game, right? There's Acheron, who would go into OP. She's above everyone, all the DPSs. And then Jingliu goes in S+. Everything Jingliu at a kit offers, like just base level, fire, free, easy. No other character in the game is offering that, right? So it's not that Jingliu wouldn't be recommended to a newer player. Like I would absolutely tell someone to pull Jingliu if in the event you don't want Acheron. If you know you don't want Acheron, pull Jingliu. Your options, you have literally, it's either score a 105 on your final exam or score a 100 on your final exam, right? No bad option here. There's no bad option. But in Acheron's case, Acheron is more future-proof than Jingliu based off the information the development team has already given us and they've been showing us throughout each little dev blog and update that they've done. Now, me personally, I've talked about this in a number of videos. The game is moving away from 1.0 team building and 1.0 like styles of play, and they're moving into more dedicated team comps. And I compared it to Genshin Impact. What I meant by that at the time, I can now explain fully through Honkai Star Rail terms. The game is moving in a way to where now it's gonna look at like, okay, Acheron, yeah? You have Acheron, you have Silver, you have Black Swan, for instance, and then you have, I mean, I guess that's all 5 stars, whatever. Acheron, Silver, and Pela. That core, and then Gallagher. I'm gonna throw Gallagher in there too. The team, every character on that team has a purpose. They're not just there to boost Acheron by wasting something. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna waste my turn and boost Acheron. Like I'm on autopilot just to hyper carry Acheron. No, you need to know, hey, did Pela do basic attack or ult first? Am I running Windset Pela? No. Okay, I can't do certain combos. Do I have resolutions? Yeah, I do. Okay, I need to pay attention to how Pela is being played. My goal is to help Acheron get as many stacks as possible while keeping the defense down, the defense shred on my enemies, right? I need to build up skill points in the event she needs to do them, and I need to be able to use skill points when I need to use them. Silver, hey bro, are you weak to lightning? Do you want to be weak to lightning? Okay, now you're going to be weak to lightning. On top of that, did I build my ultimate in 2.5 turns? Oh, I did. Say less, bro. Take this defense down. You're dead. Now you have a negative 100% defense shred on you. Those two characters, fire. We got that, all right? Swan can do the same thing. You can get like 90-something defense down or something like that, whatever. Anyhow, then you have Gallagher. Gallagher's one job should be to sustain the team. But on an Acheron team, that's not his job. Gallagher's job is to get my ultimate as fast as possible so that if the team needs emergency healing, I can do that. But my real job is put this fucking debuff on their head. Hey, bro, we are at the end of the cycle. I go last, and Acheron has 7 stacks. How do I get 9? Oh, yeah, I could fucking ult. Basic attack, ult, basic attack. Damn, that's crazy. Acheron just got 9 stacks, cleared the cycle, 0 cycle, just like that. Because I got my ult last minute, and everyone else still has the defense down. It's about how you play this team and what this team functions, like the team function. That's where the game is moving towards. DOT is a really easy example of that. And then, of course, Ratio and Topaz. I say this all the time, but I don't think people understand how important it is when I say it because they're just not there yet. And it doesn't mean that they're not there mentally or anything like that. I mean that they're not there in terms of like willing to accept it or play it. Ratio and Topaz, while you can replace Topaz with, what were y'all saying yesterday? Like fucking May or some shit like that? Ron, May, Sparkle, Ting Yun, and then get results, the same results for Ratio. Yes, you can do that. That team is it's a completely different team. Just because the like Ratio is on the team does not make this a follow-up team. It's not the same thing, right? You are hyper carrying Ratio to make Ratio just do what the Powerpuff Girls do for every other DPS. When you put Topaz and Ratio on the team, not only is Ratio being benefited, but Topaz is being benefited. So now you have 2 strong DPS characters that are outputting upwards of 100,000 damage each by just existing on the same team together. Then you add in a character like May, who's going to boost that tremendously, and now is GG's no re. You add in another character, say you want your crit rate to be 100%, add in Swan. You want some energy so that you can top them off because their energy requirements are a little harder to hit. You give them Ho-Oh. You give Ho-Oh the shared feelings light cone, and now everybody's getting, like, shared feelings is such a broken light cone that people are sleeping on. That shit is dumb. I love it. I'm so glad CN put me on to the shared feeling light cone because that shit is ridiculous. All right, you're getting ults that you should not be able to get in half a turn, but I fuck with it. I love it. Anyhow, you're building the actual team, okay? What the simp? What the fuck did you just say? I'm so glad I read that late because I know it's not gonna be in the video, but like, damn, bro. That's crazy. I wouldn't say it's about team function. It's about certain DPS's needs. Break DPS needs Ron May. Dot DPS's need DOT enablers. Crit DPS's need crit, etc. Team function looks like a smart and pretentious way to say an easier thing. No. You're looking at it the wrong way. You're looking at it as like this team archetype, right? Which I guess you could look at it that way, but that's not the way that I'm trying to explain it. So maybe that's on me, but the way that I'm explaining, like DOT, the archetype, I can play DOT any kind of way that I want. Follow up, the archetype, I cannot play that any kind of way that I want, because follow up Clara is different than follow up Ratio. Follow up Himiko is different than follow up Clara. So no, you can't just throw them on. Oh yeah, the crit DPS or crit DPSs, throw the crit buffer. The buffer is irrelevant in this case, right? I'm solely talking about the combination of what this team's function is. At a core, what does this team do? So Kafka Swan is a DOT team, yes. They play very similarly, but they change. Like Kafka Swan is not the same thing as being played as Kafka Sampo or Kafka Gwen or Kafka Luca. They don't play the same, right? Your goal is to amplify not only Kafka, but Swan. And in Swan's case, you need to build those Arcana stacks, because Swan has her own function. This is what I meant earlier when I said 2.0 characters they're moving forward, right? The development team is already, they told us this with Acheron. Before we got Acheron, they all collectively, they outright said, hey man, weren't you trying to like fuck around with Acheron? Like you guys were trying to make Acheron something completely broken? And they were like, yeah, we tried it with no weakness types. We tried it where she didn't appear on the action value meter, which means she basically didn't have a turn until you fulfilled XYZ condition. Which, to compare that, right, because I know that's a little harder for people to understand if they don't have that character, Himiko has Robot Jones, which is her passive. And so it doesn't exist on the action value. It's not like Jingliu, but it does count as a follow-up attack. How to trigger that? You get 3 breaks. You break something 3 times, Robot Jones comes out and snaps everybody. So Acheron, in theory, was going to work like that. You build up these stacks by putting on debuffs from the rest of your team. Acheron comes out of nowhere. Swing, quang, ching, qua, plow, bam, dead. Everybody's dead, right? You do the slash dreams, the domain expansion, everyone's gone. That's how that would work. Swan's whole purpose for function, apply debuffs, the defense down, so that my team benefits, but I also benefit from my DOT exploding with Arcana. Then you want to build the Arcana stacks. Swan can't build 50 Arcana on her own unless you're in Simulated Universe, or the fight is lasting insanely fucking long and the enemy is just like -1 speed. So you need someone else to help you. Kafka Swan, different than Kafka Sampo. Swan Kafka, different than Swan and Sampo, right? Because Kafka does, I mean, I guess Swan and Sampo could do the same thing because wind, but now you don't have the other,
Yeah.
Thank you for the follow. You don't have the other elements to bounce off of to continue the stacks, right? You're only building up that one wind shear. In Kafka's case, being able to re-trigger everything, and Swan basically having the ability to apply all DOTs on the enemy. Now Kafka triggers all DOTs to gain the rest of those stacks, right? So it works in their favor. They work in tandem with one another. Luca being able to re-trigger bleed, Gwenaifen being able to re-trigger the burn, right, from Arcana. There's a lot of things that go into building the DOT team with Swan on the team versus no Swan on the team. You can just play regular Kafka, bro, right? Like you can hypercarry her and it's fine. With Swan on the team, you're playing an actual DOT, like it's a whole different type of team. So it's not just, oh yeah, this is DOT, put the DOT enabler on there. No, you have to look at this. You don't have to do whatever you want, right? You can do whatever you want. But when you're looking at it, it turns into much more of a looking at the team's function. Daniel is another really good example. Daniel, you can't just say okay, let's say Daniel, right? Put a crit buffer on the team. So Daniel, I'm going to put Bronya, I'm going to put Ron May, and then I'm going to put Sparkle on the same team, right? Because they're crit buffers. That Daniel team is going to perform like dog shit. His damage when he hits somebody is going to be high as fuck. But making the team work, its function, ass. Now, if you optimize it, because now we get into team building, how do I make it so that Daniel has all of the skill points when his turn comes up? He gets to go as often as possible, and he keeps the damage. And now you look at building the team function. Maybe I want Sparkle on the team, the extra skill points. She's going to boost his damage anyway, and then she's going to bring him forward. He doesn't need speed boots, so he's good. Maybe I want Ting Yun on the team. How does Sparkle plus Bronya plus Muran May bad for Daniel? Who is generating your skill points on that team? Think about what you just asked me. If Daniel's goal is to get 3, like his max skill point, max enhanced attack, which costs 3 skill points. Sparkle does not get her ultimate every turn. She gets it every 2 turns, which means when you do it the first time, let's just say you had max. You go from 7 You use 3, now you have 4. Sparkle brings Daniel up, now you have 3. Bronya brings Daniel up, now you have 2, right? Somewhere in between that, Daniel would have had to gone, right? So then you would have went, let's go from 7. Sparkle brought him up, does her ult, 7. Daniel uses 3. You're down to 4. Bronya goes next. Bronya brings Daniel up. Bronya uses her skill point, you go from 4 to 3. You use Daniel, now Daniel gets the rest of his stuff. You use the last 3, right? Boom. Now you have that. He comes back up, he does whatever. It's May's turn now. May goes, and then May has ult for whatever reason. May has ult, and she has her skill active. You get 1 skill point. 1. You then use, because Sparkle's turn is next, right? You use Sparkle. Bring Daniel up. Daniel has ult now. Daniel does ult. Now you have 2 free skill points, but 0 actual skill points because Sparkle does not have her ultimate yet. You need to do it again to get her ultimate. She doesn't have her ult yet, so you can't recover it. The team isn't bad. I'm not yelling at you, Albie, by the way. I talk pretty passionately. It's not that the team becomes bad. It turns into a problem when you look at it for just like pure damage.
Yeah.
Right? If you're looking at like, oh, how's it bad? That's the most damage in the game. Those are the Powerpuff Girls. They're gonna out damage anything. The team's function is incomplete. It performs bad because I now have to alter how I play this team. Why the fuck do I have Bronya and Sparkle on the same team if I'm not using them to advance him forward every time they come up? It works for Blade, the Infinite Blade Works team. I love that name, by the way. Or Unlimited Blade Works. It works there because Blade doesn't use skill points more than once. He uses 1 skill point. His enhanced attack lasts for 99 turns. The enemy's dead. They buff a lot. The buff doesn't matter, bro. You're gonna tell me as a Daniel main, as a Daniel player, not me, but like I'm saying, if you were a Daniel main, you're okay with using a single basic attack and you got all the buffers on one team? Albie, I did teach, I mean, it wasn't my tech. I'm just saying that's what I was taught for the Daniel with Bronya. That's with Bronya and Daniel, just those 2. And even with just those 2 characters,
Yeah.
if you notice what I said, right? Remember what I said about it. Daniel does basic, Bronya brings him back up, and then he maxes out the skill. You repeat the process. So you only get 1 enhanced skill per turn. 1 enhanced skill per turn versus Sparkle on the team. The optimized team is not having Sparkle and Bronya on a Daniel team. If you would have said what I said, Sparkle, Bronya, Sparkle, May, and Ting Yun, and then Daniel, you could say that's the maximum damage with optimized team shit. You could remove May from the team. Let's say you need sustain. Sparkle, Ting Yun, Luocha, and then Daniel. You have now optimized the team. You have an SP positive sustainer. You have Ting Yun, who is pretty much SP positive, and she gives him ult back almost immediately. So he always has skill points. And then in between that, because Sparkle is the only one using the advanced forward at this point, and Daniel can just max burst everything, he always has enhanced attack. No. I think, Albie, I think you're like not clicking with what I'm saying. Bronya and Sparkle is good, but it's not the functional team that exists right now. Sparkle and Bronya on the same Daniel team is dysfunctional. It doesn't work. It's not good. You can make it work, but it requires so much extra work that at that point I would rather play a different team. It's great for Blade because he doesn't use skill points. You're not benefiting by putting, and maybe, honestly, this probably introduces what I've been trying to get people to understand for months now. Hyper buffing the shit out of every DPS character doesn't teach people how to play the game. And this is a great example, Albie. I don't mean to call you out, but this is a great example of what I've been talking about, where it's a lot of newer players or a lot of growing players, right? They've been playing for a certain period of time. They don't know how to actually like build the team or play the game. Like, they don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They just hear and then do it. Hey, I've been told May, Bronya, Sparkle, Ting Yun are the best characters in the game. Get my DPS character, put these 3 on the team, and then let auto do the work. They don't know what that team is actually like, why it's broken, or why those 4 characters are OD as shit, right? The harmony busted units. They don't know why it works that way. So when I mentioned the Daniel thing, because Poke doesn't even play E0 Daniel, he plays E2, so he doesn't suffer the same fate that the other E0 Daniel players face, right? So when I said Bronya and Daniel have to do 1, 2, 3, his immediate response was, who the fuck plays Bronya and Daniel? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just put May and Ting Yun on the team and let Daniel do what he wants to do? because he has E2. But these E0 players don't have that. So when E0 players are like, that's how you play Daniel. Like, you use basic attack and then you do enhanced after that. What the fuck is Poke on? He doesn't know. The same works in reverse though for newer players, right? When you're playing the game and I'm like, oh, I'm a creator and I'm telling you, hey bro, you want to play Acheron? Just put Pela Silver and fucking Ho-Oh on the team and let your Acheron run through autopilot and you're fine. But if I don't tell you why they're doing that, even if if you said we're talking about Daniel's needs in that team, which is what I said originally, yes, we agree on that. I completely get what you're trying to get across, but looking at your core DPS's needs instead of the whole team's DPS is much easier and relatable. This, I refuse to agree with. I'm standing 10 toes down. I refuse to agree with that. My famous quote, it's a team-based game, it's a team-based game. I want my team to perform as a team. If I were looking for the Michael Jordan of the Bulls, right, the Chicago Bulls, and I'm looking for the Michael Jordan, I don't care about the team because Michael Jordan is going to do everything on his own. You know the Michael Jordans of this game? Acheron and Jingliu, which is why I said Acheron is OP, Jingliu is the only character in S+ tier because they perform on a completely different level than every other DPS in the game. They perform completely differently. Yo, thank y'all for the follows. I appreciate that. I don't have a hyper carry team. I have like one with Acheron, but yeah, I don't have hyper carries on my free to play account. I'm building building out the team, but I'm fuck hyper carry, bro. I'm not running that shit. The only hyper carry on that account is Acheron. And that's just because I happen to have already had the Acheron shit on the account. I was preparing for Kafka, and then I ended up getting Jingliu, and then that was a disappointment. So I moved on from it. Yeah, no, Topaz Ratio is not a hyper carry team. Stop, no. we're not gonna lie here, all right? Albie, it's not a hyper carry team. Hyper carry doesn't just mean you're buffing a character. That's not what that means. What's my other team? It's Dr. Numby. It's the follow-up team. It's missing its buffer. So I'm gonna try and snipe Robin if I can get that. But that's not what that is. Yeah, no, Dank. Hyper carrying, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Red. It's basically dual DPS. Hyper carrying, based off what the community is here for, the HSR community, what they refer to as hyper carry is basically double buffing or triple buffing one DPS unit. Having Ratio and Topaz on the same team automatically eliminates that. You can't hyper carry two DPS characters. You can carry them, but you don't hyper carry them. Would I please classify Herta plus Himiko as a follow-up team? I mean, I guess, but I'm not really a fan of Herta Himiko outside of Pure Fiction. I think Herta is a bad character by design, but in Pure Fiction, she's amazing. So it's really hard to do that. We didn't even finish my tier list, guys. All right, we were stuck in S+ for like 30 minutes. I'm telling every time y'all be like, bro, you really dropped a 2-hour tier list video. It's your fault. It's your fault, bro. It's your fault, you know? It's not that I genuinely don't prefer hyper carry teams. I don't mind if the team is hyper carry. It's that I don't like when the team's sole function or sole purpose is just to boost the one DPS. Like that's it, right? If the hyper carry team, for instance, Acheron's team, right? I personally make each character on that team do some form of something. But in the event I had 3 characters on one team and their sole purpose was to baton pass energy or buffs to one character, I would not like the team. To me, it's boring. I don't give a fuck how much damage it does. It's boring to me, which is why I don't like playing it. But I don't knock the damage that it does, right? A lot of people think that I'm like, oh man, you don't know how strong hyper carry is. I'm like, oh, it's the strongest DPS dealing team in the game. No. Like, that's fine. I don't care. The damage is irrelevant to me. I care about the team's function. But that's just me. Moving on, so I'm gonna quickly wrap this up, right? Because I know this is going to an editor. My bad, editor. I don't know who's getting this, right? My bad. I apologize. Jingliu gets bumped down. But Jingliu getting bumped down to A tier is not bad. I'm gonna explain why. QQ also gets bumped down to A tier. Zila and Ratio are the only characters that I believe stay in S tier. And then, like I said, or rather, like Poke said, Daniel gets bumped down to A tier within the confinements of the criteria that Prydwen has for their tier list. Within those confinements, Ratio gets bumped down to A tier, Jingliu gets bumped down to A tier, QQ gets bumped down to A tier. Within those confinements, Blade gets bumped down to B tier. Blade gets bumped down to B tier. Argenti stays in A tier. He should not have been replaced. He should have gotten put in A tier. Serval gets put in A tier. Himiko should I hate y'all. Himiko should have gotten brought up to A tier. I know they put Himiko in C tier because EO. I know that. I know they did that. Himiko and Herta moved from B to C tier in MOC. Mimir of Chaos increasingly sees more and more individual boss type enemies paired alongside elites with fewer final waves containing an abundance of smaller enemies to slay. All of that hinders Himiko and Herta's ability to shine compared to other options. After thorough performance testing and observation of multiple Memory of Chaos datasets, we'll be moving Himiko and Herta down a tier due to their less efficient single targeting, consistently low play rate, and the rising difficulty requirements of MOC. I want to tell you that I can't argue with this. It's based on data, but I also think, and I still believe it to this day, most players are not playing Himiko correctly. It's the same way that I think most people aren't playing Clara correctly. The amount of teams I've seen using Bronya and Clara together blow me. They blow me, bro. It's ridiculous. You go look at a top Clara team and like what they're doing in MOC, like statistic wise, data wise, Bronya and Clara, Sparkle and Clara. What the fuck are you doing? Yeah, bro, I want to boost her up forward so she can do a bunch of skills. Why? Why? Because Harmony's broken. Why don't you just let Clara get hit? Oh, no, I don't want to do that. She takes damage. My bad. Anyhow, finishing that up. Everything else I'm fine with, right? Herta going down to C tier. I'm fine with that. Himiko going down to C tier. Absolutely the fuck not. I don't agree with this at all. Everyone else is fine. Yang Qing needs something else, bro. And it ain't another character. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I don't think Yang Qing gets higher than... Okay, respectfully, Yang Qing should be in C tier. There's no way he's in D tier and fucking Win, Dawn, Hung, Herta, and Hook, and Misha. Granted, Misha does do more damage than Yang Qing, but it's RNG. There's no way he's down here and they're up here. Yang Qing should definitely be in C tier. He should definitely be in C. Fuck no, he's not a B tier character. That boy is not a B tier character. If he's B tier, Misha's A tier. And I'm definitely not saying that. You will not catch me on that one. I will not stand 10 toes down on that. I will not stand 10 toes down on that. Before venturing, he is. Before venturing is a big maybe. Yang Qing's problem isn't that he gets hit. I understand that's what we would think it is, right? We would think Yang Qing's problem is that he needs shields. That's what we thought at one point. It's not. His problem is his damage. His damage compared to every other DPS in the game is just not up to snuff. Serval does more damage than Yang Qing, and she doesn't even face the same issues that he faces. That's dumb. That's ridiculous, but it is what it is. Anyhow, that's gonna be the tier list, right? We finished everything, yeah? I don't know why this took me an hour and a half. It's chat's fault, but we did. Thank y'all for watching this. If you happen to watch this long ass video, my bad. I appreciate that though. I really do. Damn.